Hi, everybody. My name is Joe. I'm a doctoral student studying clinical psychology, and this is Psych Made Simple. Now, today I wanted to answer an interesting question. Can values be bad? And we've talked a little bit about values when we've been talking about acceptance and commitment therapy. We've talked about a couple ways to select different values and the importance of values and kind of striving towards those values to help you just enjoy your life more, have a more fulfilling life. And just to go a quick overview of kind of what values are, sometimes they're called like higher order goals or like a goal on top of a goal. So if you have multiple different goals and they're all striving towards the same bigger thing, that can be a value. And an example would be like if you really value your health, then you might have some specific goals of like exercising 3 times a week, eating 2 servings of vegetables every day, and trying to only eat dessert once a week rather than like every single day. So this is an example of a value, and I wanted to touch on a couple different systems of values that are pretty common or prominent in research, sometimes used in clinical practice, I'm sure, but I'm more familiar with them from research, and I wanted to kind of compare and contrast them. And the first one we're going to look at is by a guy named Schwartz, and also several other researchers have done articles, based on this system of values. There's 10 different values, and they kind of fit different quadrants. The idea is that the ones on the opposite side of the circle are kind of opposed to one another. So, for example, if you really value self-direction, then that might conflict with certain behaviors you would do and stuff if you really valued security. Whereas, it's a classic debate between like if you want more freedom versus if you want to be a little safer and maybe sacrifice some freedoms to achieve that level of safety. So that's just one example. But in theory, all of these along the circle would be kind of opposed to the one that's opposite of them. And if you'll see, one interesting kind of assumption of this model is that all of these different values are good things to an extent. And we can debate that, but if you look at security, that's a pretty good thing. The opposite of that is self-direction, having that freedom, that's a good thing. Universalism is kind of caring for all different types of people. Benevolence is kind of that caring and being dependable, being trustable. All these different things around, even power, that sometimes is perceived as negative, but sometimes it's good to have, a level of power, a level of autonomy in your life and things like that. So in general, if we look around these, we might have some negative connotations about them, but the general system is that these are all different things that people might have different opinions of which ones are more important, but they're all kind of good things to strive for in our life. So that's one way to think about values, is that they're all positive and they're different. Maybe they're conflicting in some sense, but they're all kind of good things to strive for. But, kind of a natural question comes up of, well, what about if you're striving for something that's not so great, because I'm sure people or have heard of people or can imagine certain characters or something like that that really strive for evil things or strive for bad things. And we can debate whether the examples given in this next model are really bad, but another model here kind of distinguishes between extrinsic and intrinsic aspirations. And they define aspirations basically the same way that we would define values up here, as like a goal on top of a goal or a higher order goal that all these other goals are striving towards. So we can basically think of an aspiration as a value. And this system started by Kasser and Ryan, and it's part of this self-determination theory, if you want to look into that more in the research. It identifies wealth, fame, and image as things you can strive for that are kind of extrinsic. And the idea of the word extrinsic is that you don't really get happiness directly from these things, but it's more like the power, the privilege, the access that these kind of things will give you. You think that those will kind of give you happiness or joy. Whereas intrinsic aspirations, and this is according to Kasser and Ryan, things like personal growth, meaningful relationships, and community contributions, these are things that just inherently are enjoyable and bring us joy, bring us happiness, right? And what's interesting is from some of their research, they found that, and I drew the arrow upwards towards these aspirations because striving towards these aspirations has been associated with better psychological well-being and lower levels of distress compared to those extrinsic aspirations like wealth, fame, and image. Those have been associated with worse psychological well-being, higher levels of distress. So it's kind of an interesting question, right? Do we think of values as all these different positive things we can choose from? Or do we think of values as there's some values that are really worth striving for and are good to strive towards? And on the other hand, there's some values that are not so great, that if you strive towards these things, it's kind of worse for your mental health. You have higher levels of distress, different things like that. And I think it's kind of an interesting thought question. And, if you watch this video, it provokes some thought for you, then let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think values can be bad? Or do you think that values are just always positive? You can select whatever values you want, whatever you strive for, it'll make you happy if you get towards it. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting question to think about, and wanted to bring it up and give you some different ideas from the research of where different researchers lean on that question. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give me a like. Please subscribe if you want more. And if you have any suggestions for other videos, please feel free to leave that in the comments. And again, if you have any thoughts about this question, can values be positive or can values be negative, or are they always positive, then let me know in the comments. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.